The year is 1964. Imagine the scene. Rock and roll is on the radio. The world is changing at a breakneck pace. And on a showroom floor, a car is unveiled that will capture the hearts of a generation. That car was the Ford Mustang. It wasn't just a car. It was a phenomenon. It was stylish, affordable, and it embodied the spirit of freedom that everyone was craving. The Mustang flew off the lot. Ford had struck gold, creating a whole new category of vehicle. The pony car. The automotive world was completely turned on its head. Over at Chevrolet, the mood was tense. Executives watched the Mustang's meteoric rise, not with admiration, but with a growing sense of urgency. They had been caught completely off guard. Their own lineup, while solid, had nothing to directly challenge this new sensation. The Corvair, with its rear-engine layout, was quirky and cool, but it wasn't a Mustang killer. The Corvette was a purebred sports car, in a different league and a different price bracket altogether. Chevrolet, a giant of the industry, had a massive, Mustang-shaped hole in its portfolio, and it was getting bigger by the day. In hushed boardrooms, behind closed doors, the discussions were frantic. The question on everyone's lips was simple, yet monumental. How do we respond? They couldn't just sit back and let Ford run away with this entire market segment. The pride of General Motors was on the line. They needed an answer, and they needed it fast. They needed their own pony car. A car that could not only compete with a Mustang, but beat it at its own game. It had to be powerful, it had to be stylish, and it had to have an attitude all its own. And so, in the deepest secrecy, a project was born, codenamed Panther. This was Chevrolet's counterattack. Engineers, designers, and marketers were assembled, sworn to secrecy. This wasn't just about building a new car. It was about crafting a legend. They studied the Mustang, dissecting its every success. They knew their car had to offer more power options, a more aggressive stance, and a name that would command respect. The initial sketches began to flow, blending long, sleek hoods with short, muscular rear decks. The Panther was taking shape, evolving from a concept into a tangible threat. The development was a race against time, while the public was falling deeper in love with the Mustang. Chevrolet's Panther project was a whirlwind of clay models, engine tests, and late-night debates. They were aiming for a moving target. Ford wasn't standing still. The Mustang was already being updated and offered in new variations. Chevrolet's car had to land with a massive impact. It needed to be more than just a copy. It had to be a statement. The pressure was immense. Every decision, from the curve of a fender to the roar of the exhaust, was scrutinized. As the launch date drew nearer, the secrecy around Project Panther became legendary. The automotive press was buzzing with rumors. What was Chevrolet building? What was this mysterious Panther? Chevrolet played it coy, feeding the speculation and building a mountain of hype. They knew that the reveal had to be an event. In a clever marketing move, they sent telegrams to journalists, inviting them to a meeting of the Society for the Eradication of Panthers from the Automotive World. It was a brilliant piece of theater. The press gathered, and the big question was finally answered. The general manager of Chevrolet at the time, Pete Estes, stood before the crowd. He announced that the Panther was no more, but in its place, a new name would enter the automotive lexicon. He explained that they had found a new word in an old French dictionary, a word that meant comrade, pal, or friend. He said this new car was designed to be a good friend to its owner. That word, and that new car's name, was Camaro. And when the curtain was pulled back in the fall of 1966, the world saw it for the first time. The roar of a new rivalry had officially begun. The 1967 Camaro hit the streets with a vengeance. It had the classic long hood, short deck proportions, but with its own distinct, aggressive flair. The grille looked like it was ready to devour the road, and the Coke bottle styling along its sides gave it a muscular, athletic look. And under the hood, Chevrolet delivered on its promise of power. You could get anything from a sensible inline-six, all the way up to a fire-breathing 396 cubic inch big block V8 in the SS model. And for the racers, there was the legendary Z28 package, a homologation special built to dominate Trans Am racing, featuring a high-revving 302 V8. The battle was on Mustang versus Camaro, Ford versus Chevy. It was a rivalry that transcended the showroom floor and spilled onto the boulevards, the drag strips, and the racetracks of America. If your neighbor bought a Mustang, you bought a Camaro to one-up them. The pony car wars had started, and these two titans were leading the charge. This wasn't just about selling cars anymore. It was about loyalty, passion, and the very soul of American muscle. The introduction of the Camaro didn't just give Ford a competitor. It defined an entire era of automotive history, and that's just the beginning of the story. The clash between these two icons would push both to create some of the most legendary cars we've ever seen. So stick around as we dive deeper into the battles, the legends, and the legacy of the great American muscle car rivalry. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this trip back in time, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter in this incredible story. We'll see you in the next one. Have you ever heard of a secret so big it roared? A secret whispered in the halls of General Motors, hidden from the public eye. A predator lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. This wasn't just any secret. It was a legend in the making. Before the world knew the name Camaro, it had another identity, a code name that perfectly captured its fierce and stealthy nature. Project Panther. Welcome back to our deep dive into the story of an American icon. In our last chapter, we talked about the storm that was the Ford Mustang, a car that completely redefined the automotive landscape in the mid-1960s. General Motors, the undisputed king of the industry, was caught off guard. They needed an answer, and they needed it fast. But this couldn't be a rushed, half-hearted response. This had to be a counterattack, a machine designed not just to compete, but to conquer. And so, in the clandestine world of automotive R&D, Project Panther was born. Picture this. It's the mid-1960s. Engineers, designers, and executives are gathered in secured rooms, far from prying eyes and corporate spies. The air is thick with anticipation, the scent of clay models, and the frantic energy of creation. On the walls are sketches, not of a car, but of an attitude. Sleek lines, aggressive stances, and a predatory glare. They weren't just building a car. They were crafting a personality. This was GM's declaration of war on the pony car segment, and the Panther was their chosen champion. The codename Panther was no accident. It embodied everything they wanted the car to be: powerful, agile, and mysterious. A panther is a hunter, a creature of beauty and raw, untamed power. It stalks its prey silently before a sudden, explosive burst of speed. That was the essence of the vehicle they were envisioning. It had to look fast, even when it was standing still. It needed to have the muscle to back up its aggressive looks, a roar that would send shivers down the spine of any Mustang driver. The team behind Project Panther was a who's who of GM talent. Under the leadership of visionaries like Ed Cole, they were tasked with the monumental challenge of creating a Mustang killer. From a nearly blank slate, they experimented with different chassis, powertrain combinations, and design languages. Early prototypes were cobbled together, mixing and matching parts, constantly refining the formula. Would it be a sleek, European-inspired sports car, or a pure, unadulterated American muscle machine? The answer, as we now know, was a brilliant fusion of both. One of the key challenges was keeping the project under wraps. In an era before the internet, secrecy was a bit easier, but the automotive press was relentless. Rumors were flying everywhere. Journalists had caught wind that GM was working on something big, a Mustang fighter. But details were scarce. They gave it their own speculative names, like the Panther, a name that, unbeknownst to them, was Spot. GM, for its part, played a masterful game of misdirection, publicly denying the project's existence while secretly accelerating its development. This secrecy built an incredible amount of hype. It was the automotive equivalent of a top-secret military program. Every grainy spy photo, every whispered rumor, only added to the mystique. Car enthusiasts across the country were buzzing. What would it look like? How powerful would it be? Could it really take down the Mustang, a car that had become a cultural phenomenon in its own right? The pressure on the Project Panther team was immense. They weren't just building a car for GM. They were building a car for everyone who was waiting for a worthy challenger to the pony car throne. The design process was a battle of ideas. Sketches were turned into full-scale clay models, sculpted and reshaped countless times. The designers focused on creating what they called the Coke bottle shape, a distinctive curve over the rear fenders. They gave the car a muscular, athletic look. They wanted a long hood to signify power and a short rear deck for a sporty, agile appearance. Every line, every curve was debated and perfected. They weren't just designing a piece of metal, they were sculpting a dream. Simultaneously, the engineers were working on the heart of the beast. They knew that to compete with the Mustang's extensive list of options, the Panther needed to be highly customizable. It had to appeal to a wide range of buyers, from the secretary who wanted a stylish commuter to the gearhead who craved tire-shredding performance. This meant developing a platform that could accommodate everything from an economical inline-six engine to a fire-breathing big block V8. The chassis, suspension, and braking systems were all being pushed to their limits in secret test sessions at GM's proving grounds. These tests were grueling. Prototypes, disguised to look like other production cars, were driven to the breaking point and beyond. Engineers analyzed every bit of data, tweaking the suspension for the perfect balance of comfort and handling, tuning the engines for maximum power and reliability. They were relentless in their pursuit of perfection. This wasn't just about matching the Mustang. It was about surpassing it in every measurable way. The Panther had to handle better, go faster, and feel more solid. As the launch date drew closer, the secret began to unravel. Not by leaks, but by GM's own design. They initiated one of the most brilliant marketing campaigns in automotive history. In the summer of 1966, Chevrolet sent telegrams to automotive journalists across the country, inviting them to a meeting of the Society for the Eradication of Panthers from the Automotive World. It was a clever, playful jab at the very rumor they had let fester. The press was intrigued. What was GM up to? Then came the grand reveal on June 28, 1966, in what was the first ever real-time press conference. Connected by telephone lines, Chevrolet General Manager Pete Estes officially announced the name of their new car. He famously quipped that a Camaro was a small, vicious animal that eats Mustangs. The battle lines were drawn. The Panther had shed its Cody name and emerged from the shadows as the Camaro. The secret was out, but the legend was just beginning. Project Panther was more than just a development program. It was a testament to the ingenuity, passion, and competitive spirit that drives the automotive world. It was a secret kept in the shadows, a promise of power whispered on the wind, a Panther waiting for its moment to strike. And when it did, the world was never the same. Thanks for joining us on this journey back in time. The story of the Camaro is filled with so many incredible moments, and we're just getting started. If you're enjoying the series, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you do. And miss the next chapter where we cover the explosive, public launch, and the immediate impact the Camaro had on the streets and the racetrack. We'll see you in the next one. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most legendary moments in automotive history. A moment that officially ignited a rivalry that has burned brightly for decades. We're talking about the birth of a name, Camaro. The year is 1966. The Ford Mustang has been an absolute sensation, a runaway success that completely redefined the American car market. Ford caught everyone off guard, and the other major automakers, especially General Motors, were scrambling to catch up. For 2 years, the public had been hearing whispers and seeing spy shots of GM's secret weapon, a car codenamed Panther. This was supposed to be Chevrolet's answer to the Mustang, their contender in the brand-new pony car segment. Excitement was at a fever pitch. The automotive press was buzzing. Everyone knew GM was on the verge of announcing something big. Then, in June of 1966, the invitations went out. Chevrolet invited journalists from all over the country to what was billed as a special, top-secret press conference. The mystique was intentional, and it worked perfectly. The press corps was on the edge of their seats, ready for the big reveal of the Panther. So, picture this. A room full of eager reporters, cameras ready, notebooks open. The Chevrolet executives take the stage. They start talking about a new car, a car that's going to change everything, but they don't call it. They announce a new name, A word nobody in the room has ever heard before. Camaro. Immediately, hands shoot up in the air. A journalist stands and asks the question that is on everyone's mind. What exactly is a Camaro? The tension in the room is palpable. This is the moment. This is where a legend is made. A Chevrolet spokesman steps up to the microphone, a slight smile on his face, and delivers one of the most iconic lines in the history of cars. He looks at the reporter and says, "A Camaro is a small, vicious animal that eats Mustangs." Boom! The room erupts. Laughter, applause, scribbling pens. It was a masterstroke of marketing, a bold and audacious declaration of war. In that single sentence, Chevrolet didn't just name their new car. They gave it an attitude, a purpose, and a mortal enemy. The rivalry was no longer a behind-the-scenes corporate battle. It was now public, official, and personal. They weren't just selling a car. They were selling a giant slayer, a challenger ready to take on the undisputed champion. This wasn't just a clever jab. It was a strategic move that perfectly framed the narrative for the next 60 years. From that day forward, you couldn't talk about the Camaro without thinking about the Mustang, and vice versa. They were destined to be forever linked, two sides of the same coin, locked in an eternal struggle for horsepower supremacy in the hearts of American drivers. The battle lines had been drawn in the most public way imaginable. Let's break down the genius of this moment. Chevrolet knew they were the underdog. The Mustang had a 2-year head start and had sold over 1 million units. Coming out with a car that was simply like a Mustang wasn't going to cut it. They had to be different. They had to be aggressive. By defining the Camaro in direct opposition to the Mustang, they immediately carved out a unique identity for it. It was the rebel, the fighter, the one that wasn't afraid to take on the king. This quote also set the tone for all Camaro advertising to come. It was about performance, power, and a competitive spirit. It told potential buyers, if you want the original, get a Mustang. But if you want the one that's built to beat it, you want a Camaro. It was a brilliant way to turn their late entry into an advantage, positioning the Camaro as the newer, more aggressive evolution of the pony car concept. The name itself, Camaro, was a bit of a mystery. While Chevrolet claimed it was a French slang word for friend or comrade, that famous press conference gave it a whole new, much more aggressive definition in the public consciousness. For car lovers, Camaro would forever mean one thing: a Mustang hunter. And that, my friends, is how a legend was born. It wasn't just in the steel and rubber of the car itself, but in the audacity and wit of a single, perfectly delivered line. A line that launched not just a car, but a cultural phenomenon. The Great American Pony Car War had officially begun, and the automotive world would never be the same again. What do you think? Is that the best car launch line of all time? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from automotive history. We'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to our journey through automotive history. Today, we're diving into Chapter 4. 1967. The debut of a legend. Picture this. It's the fall of 1966. The air is buzzing with change. Rock and roll is on the radio, and the open road is calling. Chevrolet is about to unleash a car that will not only answer that call, but define a generation. Enter the 1967 Chevrolet Camaro. This wasn't just another car. It was a statement. From the moment it hit the showrooms, the Camaro was a sensation. It was designed to be the ultimate personal car, a pony car to challenge the wildly popular Ford Mustang. And challenge it did. The name itself, Camaro, was said to mean friend or comrade in an old French dictionary. And for millions, that's exactly what it became. A trusted companion for adventure. Let's talk about that iconic first-generation design. It was pure, distilled attitude. The long hood and short rear deck created a muscular, aggressive stance that just screamed power. The body lines were sleek and flowing, almost liquid, giving it a sense of motion even when it was standing still. It was a masterpiece of proportion. And the front end? Unforgettable. The full-width grille gave it a low, wide, and menacing look. One of the most talked about features was the optional Rally Sport, or RASA package. This is where the magic really happened. With the RS package, the standard headlights vanished, replaced by a set of hidden headlights behind electronically operated doors in the grille. Imagine cruising down the boulevard at dusk and flipping a switch. The grille doors would slide open, revealing the headlights. It was pure theater, something straight out of a spy movie, and it gave the Camaro an unmatched level of cool. It was a small detail that made a huge impact, setting it apart from everything else on the road. But the Camaro wasn't just about good looks, it was about choice. Chevrolet understood that drivers had different needs and desires. So they offered the Camaro in two body styles right from the start. A classic two-door hardtop coupe, and a stylish convertible for those who loved to feel the wind in their hair. This versatility was key to its appeal. Whether you were a young professional looking for a sporty daily driver or a free spirit wanting a top-down cruiser for sunny weekends, there was a Camaro for you. And the choices didn't stop there. Underneath that beautiful sheet metal was a wide array of powertrain options. The base model came with a perfectly capable inline six-cylinder engine. It was smooth, reliable, and economical, making the Camaro accessible to a broader audience. It proved that you didn't need a massive engine to enjoy the car's incredible style and handling. For many, this was the perfect entry into the world of American sports coupes. But for those who craved more, oh, did Chevy deliver. The V8 options were where the legend of the Camaro as a performance machine was truly forged. You could step up to a 327 cubic inch V8, which offered a fantastic balance of power and drivability. This was the sweet spot for many buyers, providing that classic V8 burble and plenty of get-up-and-go for spirited driving. It transformed the Camaro from a stylish cruiser into a genuine muscle car. Then there was the Super Sport, or SS package. This was the big one. The SS 350 came with a brand new 350 cubic inch small block V8, an engine designed specifically for the Camaro. It was a powerhouse, turning the Camaro into a serious contender on the street and at the drag strip. The SS package also included beefed-up suspension special badging and those iconic bumblebee stripes on the nose. An SS Camaro wasn't just a car, it was a declaration of performance. Inside, the cabin was just as stylish. The twin-cowl dashboard design, inspired by the Corvette, gave the driver a cockpit-like feel. Deeply recessed gauges and a sporty steering wheel made you feel connected to the machine. You could get bucket seats, a center console, and a variety of trim options to personalize your space. It was a car that looked good, felt good, and most importantly, was incredibly fun to drive. The public reaction was immediate and overwhelming. The Camaro wasn't just a car, it was a cultural phenomenon. It appeared in magazines, on TV, and quickly became the dream car for an entire generation. It perfectly captured the spirit of the late 1960s, a blend of style, freedom, and a little bit of rebellion. Dealerships were flooded with eager buyers, and the rivalry with the Mustang ignited one of the greatest battles in automotive history, a battle that continues to this day. The 1967 Camaro laid the foundation for everything that would follow. Its combination of stunning design, customizable options, and raw V8 power created a formula that would be refined and perfected for decades. It was more than just a piece of metal. It was the birth of an icon, a legend that roared to life and captured the heart of America. From the modest six-cylinder to the thundering SS V8, the first Camaro offered something for everyone, and in doing so, it became a car for the ages. And that's the story of the Camaro's explosive debut. What a year. What a car. The 67 model didn't just start a production line. It started a legacy that continues to thrill enthusiasts around the world. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the 1967 Camaro. If you loved this trip back in time as much as I did, please hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter in our series. We've got so much more to explore. See you in the next video. Alright, let's roll camera. Picture this. It's the mid-1960s. The air is thick with the scent of high-octane fuel and burning rubber. The muscle car wars are raging, and every manufacturer is scrambling to build the baddest, fastest machine on the block. Ford has the Mustang, a runaway success. Plymouth has the Barracuda. Dodge has the Charger. Chevrolet has its own contender, the Camaro. But they needed something more. Something ... special. They needed a weapon, not just for the street, but for the racetrack. Enter Vince Piggins, a sharp engineer at Chevrolet. He saw an opportunity in the Sports Car Club of America's new Trans Am Racing series. The rules were simple. Take a production car, keep the engine under 305 cubic inches, and go racing. This was the perfect arena to prove the Camaro's dominance. The problem: Chevrolet didn't have an engine that fit the bill. Their small block V8 South were either too small, like the 283, or too big, like the 327. But Piggins was a clever guy. He and his team got creative. They took the block from a 327 V8 and paired it with a crankshaft from a 283. The result? A screaming, high-revving engine that displaced exactly 302.4 cubic inches, just sneaking under the Trans Am limit. This wasn't just an engine. It was a statement. It was a masterpiece of engineering, designed to live its life at the red line. This was the heart of a legend. But what do you call a car built for such a singular, aggressive purpose? In the world of corporate paperwork and option codes, the most legendary names are often born from pure function. When Piggins and his team were putting together the package for this race-bred Camaro, they checked off a series of performance options. The final, crucial checkbox was an internal code, a simple designation on an order form, EDP Oseta 28. The name stuck. It was clean, technical, and a little mysterious. It whispered of something special, a special performance package that turned the everyday Camaro into a attractive ouring monster. And so, in 1967, the Z28 was unleashed. It wasn't advertised with flashy commercials or big billboards. In fact, Chevrolet barely mentioned it. It was a word-of-mouth legend, a secret handshake for those in the know. You couldn't just walk into a dealership and buy one off the lot. You had to know what to ask for. You had to know the code. This exclusivity only added to its mystique. It was a car for serious drivers, the ones who cared more about lap times than creature comforts. What made the Z28 so special, beyond its unique engine? It was the total package. This wasn't just about straight-line speed. It was about balance and control. It was focused. Chevrolet stripped away anything that added unnecessary weight. Air conditioning. Forget it. Automatic transmission. Not a chance. The first Z28s were only available with a Muncie 4-speed manual transmission, connecting the driver directly to the heart of the machine. The suspension was completely overhauled. It got stiffer springs and shocks, transforming the Camaro's ride from a comfortable cruiser into a corner-carving predator. The car sat lower, meaner. It got a beefier front stabilizer bar and a heavy-duty rear axle. Every component was chosen to enhance its on-track performance. The brakes were upgraded to power-assisted front discs, essential for hauling down from the triple-digit speeds this car was capable of. Visually, the Z28 was subtle but distinctive. The most iconic feature was the twin racing stripes, running from the nose to the tail. These weren't just for show. They were a battle cry, a visual declaration of the car's racing intent. Taste, cream it. Get out of my way. Early models also featured unique 302 emblems on the front fenders, letting everyone know what kind of power was lurking under the hood. It was an understated look that commanded respect. But let's talk about the driving experience, because that's where the Z28 truly came alive. That 302 V8 was a completely different animal from the big block torque monsters of the era. It didn't have a lot of grunt down low in the RPM range. To unleash its power, you had to wind it out. You had to push it, to rev it past 4,000, 5,000, even 6,000 RPM. And when you did, the engine would sing. A mechanical symphony would erupt from under the hood, and out the dual exhausts, a raw, high-pitched wail that was pure, unfiltered motor. Driving a Z28 wasn't a passive experience. It demanded your full attention. The manual steering was heavy. The clutch was stiff. The ride was firm, letting you feel every crack and pebble in the road. It was an unfiltered, visceral connection between driver, machine, and asphalt. This was a car that taught you how to drive, rewarding skill and precision. It wasn't just fast, it made you a faster driver. And on the track, it was an absolute giant killer. With legendary drivers like Mark Donohue behind the wheel, the Z28 Camaros, prepared by Roger Penske's team, began to dominate the Trans Am series. They went head-to-head with the Mustangs, the Cougars, the Javelins, and they won. They won a lot. The Z28 clinched the Trans Am Manufacturers' Championship in both 1968 and 1969, cementing its place in racing history. The motto "Win on Sunday, Sell on Monday" was never more true. The Z28's racing success translated directly into showroom credibility. The legend of the Z28 grew with each race won and each story told. It proved that the Camaro wasn't just another pretty face in the pony car crowd. It had grit. It had a soul forged in the heat of competition. It was a serious performance contender that could hang with the best in the world. The Z28 wasn't just a model. It was a mindset. It represented the pinnacle of what a factory-built performance car could be. A perfect blend of street car and race car. It was, and still is, a true icon, born for one purpose and one purpose only: to race. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the legendary Z28. It's a cornerstone of the Camaro story, and its spirit lives on today. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, please hit that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and ring that bell so you don't miss our next chapter. We've got so much more to explore. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Picture this. It's the late 1960s. The air is thick with the scent of high-octane fuel and burning rubber. On Main Street, USA, a rumble echoes through the night. Not from thunder, but from two titans of American muscle, poised for a showdown. This isn't just about a race. It's a question of identity, a declaration of loyalty. The eternal question that defined a generation of gearheads. Mustang or Camaro? This was the golden age of the pony car. A time when Detroit was locked in an all-out war for the hearts and wallets of America's youth. It all started in '64, when Ford unleashed the Mustang. It wasn't just a car. It was a cultural phenomenon. It was sleek, affordable, and sporty. It captured the spirit of a generation yearning for freedom and excitement. Ford sold over 1 million Mustangs in its first 2 years. They had created a whole new category of automobile, and every other manufacturer was left scrambling to catch up. For 2 long years, the Mustang reigned supreme, a king without a challenger. But over at Chevrolet, engineers and designers were working in a feverish frenzy. They knew they couldn't just copy the Mustang. They had to build something that could beat it. Their project was codenamed Panther, a predator stalking its pony prey. Then, in September of 1966, the Panther was unleashed with a new name. Camaro. The battle lines were drawn. The Camaro hit the scene with a vengeance. It was longer, lower, and wider than the Mustang, with an aggressive stance that screamed performance. Chevy came out swinging, offering a dizzying array of options, from a tame 6-cylinder all the way up to a fire-breathing 396 cubic inch, big block V8 in the SS model. The message was clear. Whatever you want, we've got it, and it's ready to take down a Mustang. Ford, of course, didn't just sit back and watch. This is where the magic really happened. The competition wasn't just on the showroom floor. It was happening on the streets, at the stoplights, and on the drag strips every Friday night. It became a tribal war. You were either a Ford guy or a Chevy guy. Your allegiance was declared by the keys in your pocket. Arguments in high school parking lots were settled in a quarter-mile blaze of glory. The rivalry fueled an incredible period of innovation. Each model year brought more power, more style, and more performance. If Chevy introduced a new engine, Ford had an answer. If Ford rolled out a new performance package, Chevy would counter with one of their own. This escalation gave us some of the most legendary cars in history. Take the Z28. Camaro, for example. Born from the need to compete in the SEC Trans Am Racing Series, the Z28 was a street-legal race car. It featured a high-revving 302 cubic inch small-block V8, heavy-duty suspension, power front disc brakes, and a 4-speed manual transmission. It wasn't about straight-line brute force. It was a balanced, track-focused machine designed to carve corners with precision. On this street, a Z28 was a giant killer. A true driver's car. Not to be outdone, Ford responded with a Boss 302 Mustang. Like the Z28, the Boss was created for transom racing. It had its own unique high-performance 302 V8, a competition-ready suspension, and iconic styling by the legendary Larry who had actually defected from GM. The Boss name was a nod to Ford's president, Semyon Bunky Knudsen, another GM defector. The rivalry was so intense, they were even poaching each other's top talent. And we can't talk about this war without mentioning the kings of the drag strip. For Chevrolet, it was the Copo program. This was the stuff of legends. Through the central office production order system, savvy dealers like Don Yanko could order Camaros with the monster L72 427 big block V8, an engine officially not available in the Camaro. These were factory-built sleepers, capable of running low 13-second quarter miles right off the showroom floor. A Yanko Camaro was the ultimate street weapon. Ford's answer: the Boss 429 Mustang. These was poor, unadulterated overkill. The only reason the Boss 429 existed was to homologate Ford's new semi-hemispherical engine for NASCAR racing. To fit this massive motor into the Mustang's engine bay, Ford had to hire an outside company to perform extensive modifications. The Boss 429 was rare, expensive, and monstrously powerful. It was less of a street car and more of a statement of declaration that Ford would build the most intimidating engine on the planet. So which one was better, Mustang or Camaro? The truth is, there's no single answer. It depended on what you were looking for. Did you want the balanced performance of a Z28 or a Boss 302? Or the raw, tire-shredding torque of a 427 Copo Camaro? Or a Boss 429 Mustang? Did you prefer the sculpted lines of the Mustang or the aggressive stance of the Camaro? This battle of the streets wasn't just about horsepower figures and quarter-mile times. It was about passion, loyalty, and the pursuit of American performance. This incredible rivalry pushed both Ford and Chevrolet to create faster, better, and more exciting cars than they ever would have on their own. They weren't just building machines, they were building legends. These cars weren't just transportation, they were a ticket to freedom, a symbol of youthful rebellion, and the soundtrack to a generation. The echoes of their V8 South still rumble in the hearts of car enthusiasts today, a timeless testament to the greatest automotive rivalry of all time. So, the debate continues. Even now, decades later, you'll find people passionately defending their chosen champion. Which side are you on? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from the golden age of muscle. We'll see you on the next one. Welcome back to our journey through automotive history. Today, we arrive at a year that changed everything. A moment frozen in time, forever etched in the soul of muscle car culture. We're talking about Chapter 7, the 1969 icon. If the Camaro had been searching for its true identity in the years prior, 1969 was the year it found it, and in doing so, created a legend that would echo for generations. This wasn't just another modeled year. It was a statement, a declaration of dominance that still resonates with enthusiasts and collectors around the world. So, what made the 1969 Camaro so special? It was a masterful evolution of an already great design. Chevrolet took the winning formula of the first-generation Camaro and refined it to near perfection. The body was visually lower, wider, and more aggressive. The designers introduced sharp, crisp creases along the sides, giving the car a more chiseled and muscular look that seemed to tense and ripple even when it was standing still. This wasn't just a car. It was a predator, coiled and ready to strike. The new grille design, with its deep-set headlights, gave the front end a menacing scowl, especially on the Rally Sport or RS models. And let's talk about those RS hidden headlights. For 1969, the doors were redesigned to be ribbed, translucent slats that would slide inward toward the center of the grille when the lights were turned on. It was pure automotive theater. It was one of those small details that screamed cool and set the Camaro apart from everything else on the road. Paired with the iconic quad taillights, the 1969 model had a unique visual signature from every angle. It was a design that managed to be both elegant and brutally powerful at the same time, a combination that few cars have ever achieved so successfully. The '69 Camaro wasn't just a pretty face, though. Underneath that stunning sheet metal was a staggering array of performance options. You could have a Camaro for just about any purpose, from the economical six-cylinder for cruising Main Street to the tire-shredding big block V8 South for dominating the drag strip. There was a Camaro for everyone. This was the year of the legendary Z28, with its high-revving 302 cubic inch V8, designed specifically to compete and win in the Trans Am racing series. The Z28 was a road racer's dream, a scalpel in a world of hammers. Then you had the Supersport, or SS models. The SS package brought beefier suspension, distinctive styling cues, and of course, access to the big block power plants. You could get a 396 cubic inch V8 that would turn gasoline into pure, unadulterated noise and smoke. These cars were the kings of the stoplight Grand Prix, their rumbling exhaust notes a warning to anyone foolish enough to pull up alongside. The SS 396 Camaro became synonymous with American muscle, a symbol of straight-line performance and blue-collar horsepower. But Chevrolet had an even bigger secret up its sleeve for 1969. Through the Central Office Production Order System, or COPO, savvy dealers could order Camaros with engines that weren't officially on the options list. This led to the creation of some of the rarest and most powerful Camaros ever built. The COPO 9561 swapped in the L72 427 big block, an iron block monster rated conservatively at 425 horsepower. These were the sleepers, the cars that looked relatively tame but packed a heavyweight punch. They were built for one thing and one thing only: to go very, very fast in a straight line. And then there was the Holy Grail, the COPO 9560, the legendary ZL1. This was an all-aluminum 427 V8, a purebred racing engine that was technically available to the public, if you knew who to ask and had a very deep wallet. Weighing about the same as a small block V8, but producing well over 500 horsepower, the ZL1 turned the Camaro into a legitimate super. Only 69 ZL1 Camaros were ever produced, making them one of the most valuable and sought-after muscle cars in existence. The ZL1 wasn't just a car. It was a myth, a legend whispered among gearheads, representing the absolute pinnacle of factory performance. This incredible combination of style, performance, and rarity cemented the 1969 Camaro's place in popular culture. It became the definitive muscle car. You saw it everywhere. It was the hero car in movies, the dream machine on teenagers' bedroom posters, the coveted prize in countless daydreams. When people closed their eyes and pictured the perfect American muscle car, the image that so often came to mind was a 1969 Camaro Mabien Hagaronge, or Le Mans blue with those black racing stripes and a rumbling V8. The car's influence went far beyond the dealership showroom. It dominated on the racetrack, with the Z28 securing the Trans Am Championship for the second year in a row. It became a staple at drag strips across the country, with hobbyists and professional racers alike finding it to be a perfect platform for building a winner. The 1969 Camaro wasn't just a product. It was a cultural phenomenon. It represented a unique moment in American history, a time of optimism, rebellion, and a relentless pursuit of speed and freedom. It was the perfect car for the perfect time. Even today, more than half a century later, the 1969 Camaro's appeal is as strong as ever. It remains a timeless masterpiece. Its design has aged flawlessly, looking just as aggressive and exciting now as it did back then. It's the benchmark against which many other muscle cars are judged. Collectors pay fortunes for pristine examples, while a massive aftermarket industry exists to help enthusiasts restore, modify, and keep these legends on the road. The 1969 Camaro isn't just a relic of the past. It's a living, breathing part of the automotive world. It's the car that defined an era and set the standard for what a muscle car could be. It had found its identity, and in doing so, it became an icon for the ages. Thank you so much for joining us on this look back at the incredible 1969 Camaro. What's your favorite version of this icon? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, please give this video a thumbs up. And make sure you resubscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss the next chapter in our automotive story. We'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to our journey through the history of an American icon. Today, we're diving into Chapter 8, the 1970s, a decade where muscle met a harsh reality. If the 60s were the Camaro's roaring youth, the 70s were its challenging coming-of-age story. The party, it seemed, was over. As the new decade dawned, the world was changing fast. The carefree optimism of the 60s gave way to a series of shocks. First came the 1973 oil crises. Suddenly, gas stations had long lines, prices soared, and those big, thirsty V8 South that we all loved started to look a little less practical. Fuel economy, a term once whispered, was now shouted from the headlines. The gas-guzzling glory days of muscle cars were numbered. At the same time, Uncle Sam stepped in with a heavy hand. New federal regulations for safety and emissions were rolled out, and they hit the auto industry like a ton of bricks. We saw the introduction of big, chunky 5M PH bumpers that, while safe, completely changed the sleek look of cars like the Camaro. The 1974 model year is a perfect example. You can instantly spot the larger, less integrated bumpers designed to meet the new crash standards. It was a visual sign of the times. Safety was now dictating design. But the real gut punch for performance lovers was under the hood. Strict new emissions controls meant that engines had to be choked. Catalytic converters became standard, and compression ratios were dropped. The mighty power figures that defined the late 60s Camaros began to plummet. The era of the fire-breathing, tire-shredding big block was fading into the rearview mirror. A top-of-the-line Z28 in the mid-70s, for example, had an output that would have been considered mid-range just a few years earlier. It was a tough pill to swallow for enthusiasts who had grown up with horsepower as the ultimate measure of a car's worth. This wasn't just about regulations, though. Public taste was shifting. The raw, untamed power of the muscle car was giving way to a new desire for personal luxury. Buyers started looking for more comfort, more features, and a smoother ride. Think plush interiors, air conditioning, and a quieter cabin. The focus was moving from the drag strip to the daily drive. The market was evolving, and to survive, the Camaro had to evolve with it. And evolve it did. This is where the story gets really interesting. While many of its muscle car rivals would fade away and disappear entirely during this decade, the Camaro adapted. Chevrolet's designers and engineers proved to be incredibly resilient. They saw the writing on the wall and pivoted. If they couldn't sell on brute force alone, they would sell on style and attitude. The second-generation Camaro, introduced in 1970 and a half, was the perfect vehicle for this transition. Its European-inspired, fastback styling was absolutely stunning. It looked fast, even when it was standing still. Throughout the 70s, Segundo Chevy leaned into this strength. They introduced bold new graphics packages, T-tops, that let the sun shine in, and distinctive spoilers. The Z28 nameplate, which had been a track-focused performance package, was reborn as a style and handling leader. The Z28s of the late 70s, with their vibrant stripes, body-colored wheels, and aggressive chin spoilers, became instant icons of the era. Inside, the Camaro became more refined. The Spartan, no-frills cabins of the 60s were replaced with more comfortable seats, better sound systems, and a focus on driver comfort. It was no longer just about the Z0260 time. It was about the experience of driving. It was about cruising down the boulevard on a Friday night, T-tops off, your favorite song on the 8-track player. The Camaro became a statement of personal style, a symbol of freedom and fun in a decade that was often anything but. This strategy was a massive success. While horsepower was down, sales went up. In fact, the Camaro had its best sales years ever during the late 1970s. In 1977, 78, and 79, it consistently outsold its main rival, the Ford Mustang. For the first time, it proved that the spirit of a car was about more than just what was under the hood. It was about the feeling it gave you, the image it projected, and the way it made you a part of a culture. So, while the 1970s may have tamed the beast, it didn't break its spirit. The Camaro traded some of its raw muscle for a heavy dose of style, swagger, and adaptability. It weathered the storm of oil crises, regulations, and changing tastes, not just by surviving, but by thriving. It cemented its place in the automotive landscape, proving it was more than just a muscle car. It was a true American legend, capable of reinventing itself for a new generation. The Camaro had faced reality and come out the other side, perhaps a little wiser, a little more comfortable, but with its iconic soul very much intact. Thanks for watching our deep dive into the 70 Segundos Camaro. It was a pivotal decade that shaped the car for years to come. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And do not forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you do not miss the next chapter in our series. We'd love to hear your thoughts or your own 70s Camaro stories in the comments below. Until next time, keep the passion alive. Welcome back to our journey through automotive history. Today, we re-dive in deep into Chapter 9 of an American icon's story. The second-generation Camaro takes shape. We're talking about the years from 1970 all the way to 1981, a period of massive change for both the auto industry and the world. So, buckle up as we explore the evolution of a legend. The year is 1970. The first-generation Camaro had set the world on fire, but Chevrolet knew it was time for something new, something bold. What they unveiled was a car that was dramatically different. The second-gen Camaro was longer, lower, and wider than its predecessor. It shed the sharp, angular lines of the 60s for a more flowing, European-inspired design. Some people even called it a pocket Ferrari. It looked less like a raw pony car and more like a sophisticated Grand Tour elegant, powerful, and ready to conquer the open road. This wasn't just a refresh, it was a complete reinvention. One of the most striking features was the new front end. The grille was now a large, single opening, often with a split bumper on the Rally Sport or RS models. This split bumper design, available from 1970 to 1973, has become one of the most iconic and sought-after looks in Camaro history. It gave the car an aggressive, almost menacing stare. The headlights were moved outboard, and the whole car just had this incredible presence. It was a design that screamed speed even when it was standing still. And speak of speed, let's talk about what was under the hood. The muscle car era was still raging in the early 70s, and the Camaro was right in the thick of it. The Supersport, or SS package, brought big block power to the table. You could get the legendary 396 cubic inch V8, which was actually displacing 402 cubic inches by then, pumping out a healthy 350 horsepower. It was a tire-shredding monster, a true stoplight two-stoplight champion. The SS wasn't just about power. It also included a heavy-duty suspension and other performance upgrades to help handle all that muscle. But for the true performance enthusiast, the ultimate prize was the Z28. In 1970, the Z28 traded its high-revving 300 to small block for a new, more potent 350 cubic inch V8, codenamed the LT1. This engine was a masterpiece, shared with a Corvette, and it produced a whopping 360 horsepower. It was a high-compression, solid lifter beast that loved to rev, paired with a 4-speed manual and a performance-tuned suspension. The 1970 Z28 was a track-ready weapon straight from the factory. It could hold its own against almost anything on the road, cementing its legendary status. However, the golden age of muscle was about to face some serious headwinds. The early 1970s brought new government regulations focused on safety and emissions, along with the crippling oil crises. This perfect storm forced automakers to make drastic changes. Horsepower numbers started to plummet as compression ratios dropped and catalytic converters became mandatory. It was a turbulent time for performance cars, and many legendary nameplates simply disappeared. But the Camaro endured. While models like the Mustang temporarily morphed into smaller, economy-focused cars, the Camaro held its ground. It continued to offer V8 power, even if it was a tamer version of its former self. Chevrolet cleverly shifted its focus. The Camaro became less about brute force and more about balanced performance and style. The suspension was refined for better handling and a more comfortable ride, transforming it further into that grand touring machine it was destined to be. The mid-70s saw some significant styling updates. In 1974, the car received new, larger aluminum bumpers to meet federal 5-mile-per-hour impact standards. This meant the beloved split bumper design was gone, but the new look was well integrated and kept the Camaro looking modern and sleek. The rear window was also enlarged, creating a wraparound effect that improved visibility and gave the car a more open, airy feel. Despite the drop in horsepower, the Z28 made a triumphant return in mid-1977 after a 2-year hiatus. This time, it wasn't about raw, untamed power. The new Z28 was all about handling. It featured a stiffer suspension, larger sway bars, and a quick-ratio steering box. While its 350 V8 made a modest 185 horsepower, the car was incredibly fun to drive. It was nimbly responsive and proved that performance was more than just a quarter-mile time. It was a huge sales success and reignited the passion for the Z28 name. As the decade drew to a close, the Camaro continued to evolve. It received new urethane front and rear fascias, updated graphics, and even T-tops became a massively popular option, offering an open-air experience without the full commitment of a convertible. By 1981, the final year of this generation, the second-gen Camaro had been in production for 12 long years, an eternity in the car world. It had survived the death of the muscle car, an oil crisis, and ever-tightening regulations. Looking back, the second-generation Camaro is a story of resilience. It began as one of the last great muscle cars and transformed into a stylish and capable grand tour that kept the flame of American performance alive through some of its darkest days. From the fire-breathing 1970 Z28 to the agile and popular models of the late 70s and early 80s, this generation proved that the Camaro was more than just a car. It was a survivor, an icon that could adapt and thrive no matter what challenges it faced. The legacy of the second gen is undeniable. It's a favorite among collectors, customizers, and movie producers who can forget Bumblebee's iconic 77 Camaro form. It represents a pivotal chapter in automotive history, a bridge between two distinct eras. It showed the world that even when times get tough, a great car will always find a way to shine. Thanks for joining us on this look back at the incredible second-generation Camaro. It was a car that truly defined an era. What's your favorite model from this generation? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you resubscribed so you won't miss the next chapter in our series. We'll see you in the next one. Ever wonder how a car becomes a legend? It's not just about horsepower or sleek lines. It's about capturing the heart of a generation. And that, my friends, is exactly what the Chevrolet Camaro did. It didn't just drive on our roads, it drove straight into our culture. Think back to the late 70 segundos. The silver screen was dominated by one of the coolest car movies ever made. Smokey and the Bandit. The 77 Pontiac Trans Am, a cousin to the Camaro, became an instant icon. But the entire F-body platform, including the Camaro, soared in popularity. It was the perfect car for the anti-hero, the rebel with a cause. It wasn't just Burt Reynolds outrunning the law. It was the spirit of freedom, a black and gold streak of defiance against authority. The Camaro embodied that same rebellious energy. And it wasn't just on the big screen. The Camaro was the star of countless television shows. Remember the Rockford Files? James Garner's character, Jim Rockford, drove a Firebird, but the sentiment was the same. These cars were the trusted sidekicks, the dependable steeds for our favorite private eyes and adventurers. The Camaro often played a similar role, either as the hero's car or the cool car the high school quarterback drove. It became a visual shorthand for cool. This fame trickled down from Hollywood right into our neighborhoods. For countless teenagers in the 70 segundos, or 80 segundos and beyond, the Camaro was asterisk. The asterisk. Dream car. It was the poster on the bedroom wall, the model car meticulously assembled on a Saturday afternoon. Getting your hands on a used Camaro, maybe a second-generation Z28, with its bold graphics and powerful stance, was a rite of passage. It was a project car, something to wrench on in the garage with your dad or your friends. Each scraped knuckle, each greasy handprint, was a badge of honor. You weren't just fixing a car. You were building a piece of your own identity. It was a machine that promised escape. The rumble of that V8 engine wasn't just noise. It was the sound of possibility. The open road wasn't just asphalt. It was a canvas for adventure. On a Friday night, piling in with your friends, a full tank of gas, and the radio blasting. The Camaro wasn't just transportation. It was a vessel of freedom. Even during tough economic times, like the oil crisis of the 1970s, the dream of the Camaro persisted. Sure, horsepower numbers might have dipped for a while, but the spirit of the car never did. It represented an attainable dream. It wasn't some exotic European supercar that was completely out of reach. The Camaro was American muscle, born and bred. It was powerful, it was stylish, and it was for the people. It was the blue-collar hero of the automotive world. Music played a huge part too. Rock and roll and the Camaro were a match made in heaven. It was the perfect car for cruising down the boulevard, windows down, with bands like Led Zeppelin or AC/DC shaking the speakers. The car's aggressive styling and powerful engine perfectly complemented the raw energy of the music. It became part of the soundtrack of a generation. As we moved into the 80s, the third-generation Camaro arrived, with its futuristic, wedge-shaped design. It looked like it came straight out of a sci-fi movie. The IROC-Z, named after the International Race of Champions, became the new king of the streets. If you grew up in the 80s, you know the IROC-Z. It was everywhere. It was the car to have, a symbol of success and style in an era of big hair and bold fashion. It continued to feature prominently in media, cementing its status as a pop culture icon. This legacy is so powerful that it continues today. The Camaro's appearance as Bumblebee in the Transformers movie franchise introduced the car to a whole new generation. Suddenly, kids who had never heard of Smokey and the Bandit were dreaming of a yellow Camaro. It was a brilliant move, connecting the car's heroic, powerful image with a modern blockbuster. The Camaro was once again the hero car, the protector, the cool and capable friend. From the rebellious spirit of the 70s to the high-tech heroism of the 21st century, the Camaro has consistently been more than just a car. It's a cultural touchstone. It represents a uniquely American idea of freedom, individuality, and the pursuit of the open road. It's the car that made us feel a little bit cooler, a little bit faster, and a little bit freer. It's a machine that carries not just passengers, but dreams. It's a true American symbol, and its legend is still being written. Thank you so much for joining me on this ride through pop culture history. If you love stories about legendary cars, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We'll see you in the next chapter. Welcome back to our series, where we're journeying through the incredible history of an American legend, the Chevrolet Camaro. Today, we're firing up the DeLorean, cranking up the sim, and heading back to the electric 1980s 4, Chapter 11. Rebirth in a new era. The 1970s were a tough time for muscle cars, but as the new decade dawned, a revolution was brewing at Chevrolet. The long-running second-generation Camaro had its final curtain call, and in 1982, the world got its first look at something entirely new, something radically different. The third-generation Camaro wasn't just an update. It was a complete reinvention, a car perfectly timed for the high-tech, high-style spirit of the 80s. This new Camaro was a visual shockwave. Gone were the flowing, rounded curves of the 70s. In their place was a sharp, angular, wedge-shaped design that looked like it was slicing through the air even when parked. This wasn't just for show. Aerodynamics became a key focus for the first time, influencing every line and contour. The most striking feature, that massive, sloping compound curved rear hatchback window. It was the largest piece of glass ever put on a GM production car and became the defining characteristic of this generation. It not only looked futuristic but also offered a level of practicality with its cargo space that previous Camaros could only dream of. Underneath that sleek new skin, the changes were just as dramatic. The car was about 500 pounds lighter than its predecessor, a significant diet that paid dividends in both performance and, crucially for the era, fuel economy. The unibody construction was more rigid, and the suspension was completely redesigned. Up front, McPherson struts replaced the old arm setup, and out back, a new torque, arm and coil springs provided better handling and road feel. For the first time, the Camaro was truly starting to feel like a modern sports car. not just a straight-line bruiser. At launch, the engine lineup reflected the times. The base model came with the Ion Duke, a 2.5-liter four-cylinder engine. Yes, a four-cylinder Camaro. It was a sign of the fuel-conscious era, prioritizing economy over raw power. But don't worry, the V8 Thunder was far from gone. The real star of the 1982 show was, of course, the Z28. It returned not just as a performance package but as its own distinct model. The Z28 was instantly recognizable with its aggressive ground effects. A three-piece rear spoiler and unique hood with functional air induction flaps. For its first year, the Z28 offered to 5.0-liter or 305 cubic inch V8 options. The standard version used a 4-barrel carburetor, but the big news was the optional crossfire injection system. This TBI, or throttle body injection, was a step into the modern world of fuel management. While it wasn't the fire-breathing monster of the late 60s, it delivered smooth power and torque, and it made the 1982 Z28 the fastest American car of its model year. It was so impressive, in fact, that Motor Trend magazine named the 1982 Camaro Z28 its car of the year. The Camaro was officially back on top. As the decade progressed, the third gen just kept getting better. In 1985, a name appeared that would become synonymous with 80s muscle, IROC-Z, named after the International Race of Champions, which used specially prepared Camaros. The ROC-Z was an option package on the Z28 that took performance to a new level. It featured a lower ride height, upgraded suspension with beefier sway bars, special shocks, and a steering box with a quicker ratio. It also sported unique 16-inch aluminum wheels with aggressive Goodyear Gatorback tires. The IROCs didn't just perform better, it looked the part. It was the poster car for a generation, the perfect blend of American muscle and European handling. Engine technology was also rapidly advancing. In 1985, the IROC-Z introduced tuned port injection, or TPI. This system, with its distinctive, almost octopus-like runners on top of the engine, was a true multi-port fuel injection system. It delivered a fantastic balance of horsepower and, more importantly, a huge wave of low-end torque that made the car incredibly fun to drive on the street. It was a game-changer, bringing the Camaro firmly into the computer-controlled performance era. And what about the king? The legendary 350 V8, the 5.7-liter, made its triumphant return to the Camaro lineup in 1987, exclusively in the IROC-Z. Available only with an automatic transmission initially to handle its massive torque. This engine turned the IROC-Z into a true powerhouse. This was the top-dog Camaro of the decade, a car that could finally run with, and often beat, its rivals from across the pond. The combination of the advanced suspension, the TPI, 350, and that iconic 80s styling created a machine that was pure, unfiltered excitement. The 1980s also saw the return of another beloved feature, the convertible. After being absent since 1969, a convertible Camaro returned in 1987, offering open-air thrills with the same sleek, modern styling. It was the perfect addition to the lineup, broadening the Camaro's appeal even further. Beyond the hardware, the third-generation Camaro became a cultural icon. It was the car of choice in movies, on TV shows, and in music videos. It represented a certain kind of cool, bold, confident, and unapologetically American. If you grew up in the 80s, you either had one, wanted one, or knew someone who did. The Z28 and the IROC-Z weren't just cars. They were statements. They were a symbol of a renewed American automotive pride, proving that performance and style could thrive in a new, more technologically advanced era. From the fuel-sipping Iron Duke to the tire-shredding IROC-Z 350. The third-generation Camaro was a story of evolution and adaptation. It embraced technology, mastered aerodynamics, and brought handling to the forefront, all while never losing the raw excitement that made the Camaro a legend in the first place. It was a rebirth, proving that, even after the challenges of the 70s, the spirit of the American muscle car was alive, well, and ready to take on the future. What a decade. The 80s truly redefined what a Camaro could be. Thanks for joining me on this trip back in time. If you have fond memories of the third-gen Camaro, or if you still have one in your garage, drop a comment below and share your story. We'd love to hear it. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next chapter as we cruise into the 1990s. Until next time, keep the passion alive. Alright, picture this. It's the 1980s. Big hair, neon colors, and a soundtrack of epic guitar solos. What's the one car that perfectly captures this era? If you just pictured a sleek, aggressive, and undeniably cool machine, you're probably thinking of the one and only Chevrolet Camaro. IROC-Z. Welcome back to our series, where today we're diving headfirst into Chapter 12 and celebrating the undisputed king of 80s muscle. The name itself, IROC-Z, just sounds fast, doesn't it? It stands for International Race of Champions, a star-studded racing series that pitted the world's best drivers against each other in identically prepared cars. And from 1985 to 1990, that car was the Camaro. What Chevy did was genius. They took the spirit of that all-star competition and bottled it up for the street, creating a legend in the process. When the IROC-Z package debuted in 1985 as an option on the Z28, it was an instant game-changer. It wasn't just a sticker package. This was a serious performance upgrade. Chevrolet took the already capable Z28 and turned everything up to 11. The car was lowered, given a radical, ground-hugging body kit. Special 16-inch aluminum wheels, with a unique 5-spoke design, and fat Goodyear Gatorback tires, the same kind found on the Corvette. It had an aggressive stance that screamed, "Get out of my way." Under the hood, you had options, but the one everyone wanted was the 5.0-liter tuned port-injection V8. This engine, borrowed from the Corvette, delivered a jolt of instant torque that made the IROC-Z a stoplight champion. It wasn't about astronomical horsepower figures by today's standards, but in the 80s, its 215 horsepower felt like a rocket ship. The sound it made was pure American muscle, deep, throaty rumble that announced your arrival from a block away. This wasn't just transportation, it was an experience. But the real magic of the IROC-Z was its handling. This is where the Race of Champions DNA truly shined. Chevy fitted it with a specially tuned suspension, including beefier sway bars, performance-oriented shocks and struts, and a steering box with a quicker ratio. The result was a car that could actually corner. It felt planted and confident, a stark contrast to the wallowing land yachts of the previous decade. For the first time in a long time, an American muscle car could hang with European sports cars on a twisty road. It was a complete package, blending straight-line speed with newfound agility. Let's talk about the look. The IROC-Z is pure, unfiltered 80s swagger. The sharp, angular lines of the third-gen Camaro were already futuristic, but the IROC-Z's additions made it look like it was moving even when it was parked. The signature hood louvers, the bold IROC-Z graphics on the doors, the integrated spoiler, every detail was designed to intimidate. It was the car you saw in movies, on TV shows, and plastered all over your bedroom wall. It was more than just a car. It was a cultural icon, a symbol of youthful rebellion and a love for all things loud and fast. Inside, the cockpit-like interior wrapped around the driver. You sat low, gripping a leather-wrapped steering wheel, facing a dashboard full of gauges. It made you feel like a pilot, ready for takeoff. Options like T-tops added to the open-air freedom and cruising culture vibe. Popping those tops on a warm summer evening, with your favorite cassette in the tape deck, that was the IROC-Z dream. As the years went on, the IROC-Z only got better. In 1987, the legendary 5.7-liter L98 V8 from the Corvette became available, boosting power and solidifying the car's top-dog status. This 350 cubic inch engine was only available with an automatic transmission, but its massive torque made it the undisputed king of the street. The car continued to receive subtle styling and performance tweaks, keeping it fresh and desirable throughout its run. So why does the IROC-Z still hold such a special place in our hearts? It's because it represents a specific moment in time, perfectly. It was a comeback story for the American muscle car, a bold statement that performance was back and here to stay. It wasn't subtle, it wasn't quiet, and it certainly wasn't apologetic. The IROC-Z was the physical embodiment of the 80s attitude. Confident, a little bit flashy, and a whole lot of fun. It ruled the boulevards, the drive-ins, and the high school parking lots. It was the hero car for a generation, a machine that bridged the gap between professional racing and the everyday enthusiast. Driving one today is like stepping into a time machine. You can almost hear the synth pop and feel the excitement of an era when cars were all about style and performance. The IROC-Z was more than just a model. It was a phenomenon. It was the ultimate 80s machine. A car that captured the spirit of its time and became a permanent fixture in automotive history. For anyone who grew up in that decade, the sight of a clean IROC-Z still brings a smile to their face and a rush of nostalgia. It's a testament to a time when a car could be a true superstar. Thank you for joining me on this trip down memory lane to celebrate the iconic Camaro. IROC-Z, what are your favorite memories of this 80s legend? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and do forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you do miss the next chapter in our automotive journey. Until next time, keep the passion alive.
Welcome back to our journey through the history of a true American icon.
Today, we're cruising into a decade of dramatic change, a time of dial-up internet, grunge music, and a complete reimagining of what a muscle car could be. This is Chapter 13, the 1990s, an era of refinement and resilience for the Chevrolet Camaro. The 1980s were a wild ride, but as the world sped towards a new millennium, the Camaro was ready for a radical transformation. The sharp, angular lines of the third generation gave way to something completely different. In 1993, the fourth-generation Camaro rolled onto the scene, and it looked like it had driven straight out of the future. Gone were the creases and corners, replaced by a smooth, aerodynamic, almost liquid-like design. It was longer, wider, and lower, with a steeply raked windshield that made it look fast even when it was standing still. This wasn't just a facelift, it was a total reinvention. The body was largely made of composite materials over a steel space frame, a modern construction technique that helped reduce weight and resist dents. It was a bold, futuristic statement that declared the muscle car was not a relic of the past, but a force to be reckoned with in the modern age. But the real story, as it so often is with the Camaro, was under the hood. The base models were competent, but the Z28... the Z28 was something special. It was armed with a legendary piece of American engineering, the 5.7-liter LT1 V8 engine. If that sounds familiar, it should. This was a version of the same powerhouse found in the C4 Corvette. In the Camaro, it was tuned to produce a very healthy 275 horsepower. Now, that might not sound earth-shattering by today's standards, but in 1993, it was a massive number. It meant the new Camaro Z28 could rocket from 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds and demolish the quarter-mile in the low 14-second range right off the showroom floor. This wasn't just a comeback. It was a full-blown power renaissance. The Camaro was once again a king of the streets, and it came paired with a standard 6-speed manual transmission, giving drivers complete control over that glorious V8 symphony. Chevrolet didn't just drop in a big engine and call it a day. The entire car was engineered to handle the power. The fourth gen featured a new short-long arm front suspension, a significant improvement over the old McPherson strut setup. This provided better handling, a more controlled ride, and more precise steering. The chassis was stiffer, the brakes were bigger, and the overall balance of the car was vastly improved. It was a more sophisticated driving machine, capable of carving up a winding road with a level of confidence that previous generations could only dream of. For the first time, the Camaro offered a blend of brute force and refined handling that put it in a league with much more expensive sports cars. It was a testament to the fact that American muscle could be both powerful and poised. As the decade progressed, the Camaro continued to evolve. In 1996, the iconic SS Supersport designation made a triumphant return, thanks to a partnership with SLP Engineering. The SS package took the Z28 to the next level. It featured a functional ram air hood scoop that force-fed the LT1 cool air, bumping horsepower up to 305. It also came with a freer-flowing exhaust, an upgraded suspension, and stylish 17-inch 5-spoke wheels. The SS was the ultimate expression of the fourth-gen Camaro in its early years, a raw, aggressive, and undeniably cool machine that became an instant legend. Finding one of these SLP-modified cars today is like finding a treasure. It represented the pinnacle of 90s Camaro performance and signaled that Chevrolet was serious about keeping its pony car at the top of the food chain. But the 90s weren't all smooth sailing. The sports coupe market was shrinking. Insurance rates were high, and buyers were increasingly turning towards more practical SUVs and sedans. The Camaro and its rival, the Ford Mustang, were locked in a fierce sales battle, fighting for a smaller piece of the pie. Furthermore, by the mid-90s, the LT1 engine, as great as it was starting to show its age. A successor was needed to keep the Camaro competitive and carry it into the 21st century. It was a challenging time, a period of uncertainty that tested the Camaro's resilience. Would it adapt and survive, or would it become another casualty of changing market trends? Chevrolet knew they had to make a big move, and make a big move they did. For the 1998 model year, the Camaro received a significant refresh. The front end was restyled with new composite headlights, giving it a more aggressive, almost predatory look that fans affectionately nicknamed the Catfish Camaro. But the most important change was nestled under that new hood. The late 90s LS1-powered Camaros were monsters. They could hit 60 in the low 5-second range and were capable of 13-second quarter-mile times right out of the box. They were the fastest, best handling, and most advanced Camaros ever built up to that point. They offered a level of performance that was simply unheard of for their price. You could walk into a Chevy dealership and drive out with a car that could challenge exotic sports cars on a drag strip, all for the price of a family sedan. This cemented the Camaro-Z's core identity. It remained the ultimate symbol of affordable performance for the everyday driver. It was a blue-collar hero, a car that delivered champagne performance on a beer budget. As the 1990s came to a close and the world braced for Juke, the Camaro stood proud. It had navigated a decade of immense change, emerging sleeker, faster, and more capable than ever before. From the revolutionary debut of the 1993 model with its smooth lines and potent LT1, to the re-emergence of the mighty SS, and finally to the introduction of the game-changing LS1, the fourth-generation Camaro proved its resilience. It faced down a shrinking market and stiff competition, yet it never lost sight of its mission: to deliver thrilling V8 performance to the masses. It was a refined beast, a modern muscle car that set the stage for the dramatic events that would unfold in the new millennium. The story of the 90s Camaro is one of evolution and perseverance. It's about adapting to the times while staying true to your roots. Thank you so much for joining us for this chapter. The story is far from over, and you won't want to miss what happens next. If you're enjoying this deep dive into automotive history, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next episode. We'll see you on the road. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. We're diving deep into one of the most heart-wrenching chapters in automotive history. Grab your tissues because today we're talking about the time the legendary Chevrolet Camaro almost disappeared forever. Chapter 14. Camaro in Trouble. As the 20th century drew to a close, a seismic shift was happening on American roads. The roar of V8 South was being replaced by the practical hum of a new kind of vehicle. The late 1990s was the era of the SUV. Big, spacious, and commanding sport utility vehicles were taking over, becoming the new family haulers and the symbol of American suburban life. Suddenly, the sleek, low-slung muscle car, once the king of the streets, started to look, well, a little old-fashioned. For the Camaro, this was a perfect storm. The fourth-generation F-body, with its catfish front end, was a potent machine, especially in its V8-powered Z28 and SS trims. It offered incredible performance for the price. You could walk into a Chevy dealership and drive out with a car that could genuinely challenge exotic sports cars from Europe, all for a fraction of the cost. The LS1 V8 engine, introduced in 1998, was a modern marvel of engineering, lightweight, powerful, and surprisingly efficient. It was a true testament to American ingenuity. But performance wasn't what the majority of the market wanted anymore. Families were flocking to Tahoes, Explorers, and Grand Cherokees. They wanted higher seating positions, 4 doors, and massive cargo space for soccer gear and grocery runs. The Camaro, with its 2 doors, tight back seat, and focus on speed over practicality, was becoming a niche product. Its primary rival, the Ford Mustang, had just undergone a popular New Edge redesign in 1999, which gave it a fresh, sharp look that captured the public's imagination and kept its sales figures healthy. The Camaro, on the other hand, felt like it was getting a bit long in the tooth. Despite its incredible performance credentials, its sales numbers were telling a grim story. They were in a freefall. From the highs of previous decades, the numbers dwindled year after year. The market had spoken, and it seemed the muscle car's time in the sun was over. For General Motors, the business case was becoming impossible to justify. The development costs for a new generation just didn't make sense for a car with such shrinking demand. Then the news that every gearhead dreaded finally broke. In 2002, Chevrolet made the official, heartbreaking announcement. After 35 years of continuous production, the Camaro would be discontinued. The assembly line in Saint-Thérèse, Quebec, which had been building these icons, was scheduled to shut down. A collective gasp was heard across the car community. It was unthinkable. The Camaro wasn't just a car. It was a cultural touchstone, a symbol of freedom, performance, and the American dream. For countless people, the Camaro was their first car. The car they went on their first date in. The car they spent weekends wrenching on with their dad. It was the poster on their bedroom wall. And now it was going away. The final 2002 models became instant collector's items, especially the 35th anniversary edition. They were the last of a dying breed, a final defiant roar before the silence. The automotive world mourned. Magazines ran eulogies, and car shows felt a little less complete. It truly felt like the end of an era. The battle between Camaro and Mustang, one of the greatest rivalries in automotive history, was seemingly over. Mustang had won by default. The roads were now dominated by practical, sensible SUVs. The wild, rebellious spirit of the American muscle car seemed to have been tamed, packaged up, and put on a shelf to gather dust. For fans of horsepower and a rumbling V8, the future looked bleak. It seemed the Camaro's incredible story, filled with so many triumphs and iconic moments, had finally reached its last page, or so it seemed, because as we all know, legends never truly die. This wasn't the end of the story, but rather a pause, a dramatic cliffhanger that would set the stage for one of the most epic comebacks in automotive history. But that's a story for our next episode. Thank you so much for joining me on this emotional journey back in time. It's a tough chapter to talk about, but it's crucial to understanding the Camaro's legacy. If you enjoyed this video and love the Camaro as much as I do, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss the story of its triumphant return. Drop a comment below and share your memories of the 4th Gen Camaro, or your reaction when you heard it was being discontinued. Until next time, keep the passion alive and drive safe. The year is 2002, the roar of the V8. A sound that had defined American muscle for over 3 decades suddenly falls silent. Production of the 4th generation Camaro ceases, and for the first time since 1967, Chevrolet's legendary pony car is gone from the showrooms. An era had ended, leaving a void in the hearts of enthusiasts everywhere. It was a tough pill to swallow. The F-body platform, a staple of performance, was retired, and the factory in Saint-Thérèse, Quebec, which had been the Camaro's birthplace for years, closed its doors. The official reason? A declining market for sports coupes and shifting company priorities. But for the fans, the reasons didn't matter as much as the reality. The Camaro was gone. It felt like a breakup with a high school sweetheart. You knew it was coming, but it still hurt. The final years of the 4th Gen were a mixed bag. They were undeniably fast, with the LS1 engine making them the most powerful Camaros yet. The 35th anniversary edition in 2002 was a potent farewell, a final thunderous burnout before the lights went out. Yet sales had been slipping. The market was changing, gravitating towards SUVs and more practical vehicles. The sleek, low-slung, and slightly impractical nature of the Camaro seemed to be falling out of favor with the general public. But for the diehards, for the community that had been built around this car, it wasn't just a vehicle.
It was an identity, and that identity was now in limbo.
The rivalry with the Mustang, a cornerstone of American car culture, felt one-sided. The Mustang carried on, evolving, while the Camaro nameplate was relegated to the history books. Or so it seemed. But you can't just switch off a legend. The spirit of the Camaro didn't die. It just went underground. This 7-year pause from 2002 to 2009 wasn't a period of mourning. It became a testament to the passion of its fanbase. The roar might have disappeared from the dealerships, but it grew louder in garages, on drag strips, and at car meets across the country. This was the era of the keeper of the flame. Camaro clubs, which had always been strong, became more important than ever. They were no longer just for celebrating a current model. They were now preservation societies, dedicated to keeping the memory and the metal alive. Weekends were filled with cruise-ins where first-gens parked next to fourth-gens, a rolling museum of horsepower and heritage. Owners of fourth-generation Camaros, now holding the last of the breed, treated their cars with a new level of respect. They weren't just used cars anymore. They were artifacts. Restoration projects, which had always focused on the classic 60s models, started to include the later generations. People were meticulously bringing 3rd-gen IROCs and 4th-gen Z28s and SS back to showroom condition, or even better. Online forums buzzed with activity. This was the golden age of the digital car community. Websites like LS1 Tech became virtual garages where thousands of owners shared tuning tips, diagnostic advice, and photos of their beloved F-bodies. If your Optus Park went out on your LT1 or you wanted to squeeze more power from your LS1, the answer was just a few clicks away. This collective knowledge base kept thousands of Camaros on the road and running strong. It was during this silence that nostalgia truly took hold. The Camaro became more than a car. It became an icon of a bygone era. Movies and TV shows continued to feature classic Camaros, reminding everyone of its cultural significance. Think of the 67 in Better Off Dead or the iconic 77 Bumblebee from the original Transformers cartoon. The Camaro was woven into the fabric of pop culture, and its absence only made its legend grow stronger. People who grew up with posters of IROC-Z on their walls were now adults, and they were buying, restoring, and modifying the cars of their dreams. The pause in production paradoxically made the existing cars even more desirable. They were finite. They were special. Meanwhile, whispers and rumors began to circulate. Chevrolet knew they had a sleeping giant. The Mustang was enjoying a massively successful redesign in 2005, a retro-futuristic look that sent sales skyrocketing. Ford had tapped into the power of nostalgia, and everyone knew GM wouldn't sit on the sidelines forever. The question wasn't asterisk if asterisk the Camaro would return, but asterisk when asterisk and asterisk how asterisk, the anticipation was electric. Every auto show brought a new wave of hope. Would this be the year? Concept sketches, both real and fan-made, flooded the internet. Each one imagining what a 21st century Camaro could look like. The pressure on GM's designers was immense. They had to honor a legacy spanning 4 generations while creating something entirely new and exciting. Then, in 2006, the silence was shattered. At the North American International Auto Show in Detroit, Chevrolet unveiled the Camaro concept. The world stood still. It was perfect. A brilliant blend of modern design and classic first-generation DNA. The strong shoulders, the aggressive grille, the classic Coke bottle shape, it was all there, reimagined for a new millennium. It was a love letter to the '69 Camaro, but it was undeniably a car of the future. The crowd's reaction was deafening. It wasn't just applause. It was a collective sigh of relief and a roar of approval from a fan base that had been waiting for this moment for years. This wasn't just a car, it was a promise. A promise that the roar would return. That concept car became an instant superstar. But a concept is one thing, a production car is another. The next 3 years were a tantalizing wait as Chevrolet worked to turn that stunning dream into a road-going reality. The hype reached a fever pitch with the 2007 debut of Michael Bay's Transformers. Suddenly, the Camaro concept wasn't just a show car. It was a movie hero named Bumblebee. A whole new generation of kids who had never seen a new Camaro in a showroom were now captivated by it. The marketing was genius. Before a single car had been sold, the new Camaro was already a global icon. It connected the past with the present, bringing old fans and new fans together. The wait was almost unbearable, but it was part of the journey. Finally, in the spring of 2009, the wait was over. The first fifth-generation Camaros began rolling off the assembly line and into the hands of eager customers, many of whom had placed their orders months, or even years in advance. The 7-year silence had officially ended, and the return was not a whimper, but a thunderous, tire-shredding, V8-powered explosion. The new Camaro was a massive hit, outselling its old rival, the Mustang, for the first time in decades. The pause hadn't weakened the brand, it had made it stronger. It allowed for a complete reinvention, a chance to learn from the past and build for the future. The 7 years of silence proved one thing above all. You can't keep a good car down. The Camaro wasn't just a product for Chevrolet. It was a passion for millions. And when it returned, it felt like welcoming home a legend. That period from 2002 to 2009 is a unique chapter in the Camaro's history. It's a story of loss, of unwavering loyalty, and ultimately of a triumphant rebirth. It showed that the bond between a car and its community can transcend production cycles and sales figures. The fans kept the legend alive when the factory couldn't, proving that the heart of the Camaro doesn't just beat under the hood, it beats in the chests of everyone who loves it. The roar was back, and it was louder than ever. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey back in time. If you have your own story about the Camaro's silent years, share it in the comments below. We love hearing from you. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more deep dives into automotive history. We'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to our journey through the epic saga of the American muscle car. For nearly a decade, a void was left in the hearts of pony car enthusiasts. The roar of a legendary rivalry had been silenced. But in the automotive world, legends never truly die. They just wait for the right moment to make a comeback. Today, we're diving into Chapter 16. The Comeback, the story of the 2010 Chevrolet Camaro's triumphant return. After an 8-year hiatus, the silence was broken. The whispers started turning into roars. Chevrolet wasn't just bringing back a nameplate, they were resurrecting an icon. The world got its first glimpse of the future with a stunning concept car that debuted in 2006. A design so bold and so perfectly nostalgic that it sent shockwaves through the industry. It was a promise of what was to come, a modern interpretation of a classic hero. This wasn't just a car, it was a statement. The Camaro was coming back, and it was coming back with a vengeance. When the production version of the 5th-generation Camaro finally hit the streets in 2010, it was a moment of pure automotive celebration. The designers at Chevrolet had performed a masterstroke. They managed to capture the very soul of the most beloved Camaro of all time, the iconic 1969 model, and infuse it with a 21st century spirit. The retro-futuristic design was an instant classic. You could see the 69 DNA in its aggressive stance, the powerful haunches over the rear wheels, and that unmistakable front grille with its deep-set headlights scowling at the road ahead. It was a love letter to the golden age of muscle, written in steel and glass. The front end was pure intimidation. The wide, menacing grille and the halo ring headlights gave it a look that was both nostalgic and incredibly modern. The long hood with its power bulge hinted at the beast lurking beneath. As your eyes moved along the side, the high beltline and chopped roof appearance gave it a sleek, custom look right from the factory. The gill-like indentations behind the doors were a direct callback to the 69 model, a subtle nod that true fans instantly recognized and appreciated. It was a design that screamed performance from every angle, a perfect blend of heritage and forward-thinking style that made everyone, from seasoned collectors to young kids, stop and stare. But this new Camaro was far from just being a pretty face. Chevrolet knew that to truly honor the legend, the 2010 model had to perform. It couldn't just look the part. It had to be the part. And oh, did it deliver! The base model came equipped with a surprisingly potent 3.6-liter V6 engine, producing over 300 horsepower. This wasn't your average entry-level engine. It offered a thrilling driving experience and proved that even the V6 Camaro was a serious performance car, making it accessible to a whole new generation of enthusiasts. It was efficient, it was powerful, and it sounded fantastic. Of course, the heart of any true muscle car is a V8, and the Camaro SS did not disappoint. Under its hood throbbed the mighty 6.2-liter LS3 V8, unleashing a formidable 426 horsepower. This was the engine enthusiasts had been dreaming of. The raw power was breathtaking, capable of rocketing the Camaro from 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. The sound was pure American muscle, a deep, guttural rumble at idle that escalated into a thunderous roar at full throttle. It was the kind of sound that made you feel alive, the kind of power that pressed you back into your seat and put a massive grin on your face. This comeback wasn't just about raw straight-line speed. One of the biggest leaps forward for the 5th-generation Camaro was its handling. Built on GM's new sophisticated Zeta platform, This Camaro featured a fully independent rear suspension, a first for the model. This was a game-changer. Gone were the days of the wobbly, unpredictable handling characteristics of classic muscle cars. The new Camaro was planted, it was agile, and it carved through corners with a confidence its ancestors could only dream of. It was a true sports car that could hold its own, not just on the drag strip, but on a winding road as well. The combination of modern chassis engineering and raw power created a driving experience that was both exhilarating and refined. Step inside, and the retro-inspired theme continued. The deep-set instrument cluster, with its square bezel gauges for the speedometer and tachometer, was a direct homage to the interior of the 1969 Camaro. A particularly cool touch was the optional 4-pack of gauges mounted on the center console, monitoring everything from oil pressure to transmission temperature, just like in the good old days. But it was all integrated with modern technology. You had a modern infotainment system, comfortable and supportive seats, and all the safety features you'd expect from a 21st century car. It was the perfect fusion of old-school cool and modern-day comfort and convenience. The 2010 Camaro's arrival did more than just bring back a beloved car. It reignited a legendary rivalry. The Ford Mustang, which had been enjoying its own retro revival success, suddenly had a serious contender in its rearview mirror. The pony car wars were back on, and the battle for supremacy was fiercer than ever. Magazine covers were filled with head-to-head comparisons. Online forums buzzed with passionate debates. Chevy versus Ford, Camaro versus Mustang. The age-old argument was alive and well, fueling a new golden age of American performance. This competition pushed both manufacturers to innovate, to add more power, to improve handling, and to offer more features, which was a massive win for car enthusiasts everywhere. The impact of the 2010 Camaro was immediate and profound. It became a cultural phenomenon. It wasn't just a car, it was a star. Thanks to its unforgettable role as Bumblebee in the Transformers movie franchise, the Camaro was introduced to a massive global audience. A whole new generation of kids who had never even heard of the original muscle car wars were suddenly dreaming of owning a yellow and black Camaro. It transcended the automotive world and became a pop culture icon, cementing its place in the hearts and minds of millions. The revival was a massive success for Chevrolet. Sales were strong, and the passion for the Camaro was rekindled. It brought back the old fans who remembered the glory days and created a legion of new ones who were experiencing the thrill for the first time. The 2010 Camaro proved that you can look back and honor your heritage while simultaneously pushing forward into the future. It was a car that perfectly balanced nostalgia with modern performance, style with substance. It was more than just a comeback. It was a rebirth. The legend had returned stronger and more compelling than ever, ready to write the next chapter in its incredible story. Thank you so much for joining us for this look back at the incredible 2010 Camaro revival. It truly was a landmark moment in automotive history. If you enjoyed this video and love the story of American muscle, please hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next chapter in our series. We'd love to hear your memories of the 5th Gen Camaro in the comments below. Until next time, keep the passion alive. Welcome back to our journey through the history of a legend. Today, we're firing on all cylinders as we dive into Chapter 17, Modern Muscle, where the Camaro roars into the 21st century not just as a muscle car, but as a world-class performance icon. If you thought the past was impressive, hold on tight, because we're about to hit the red line. The return of the Camaro in 2010 was more than just a comeback. It was a declaration of intent. Chevrolet wasn't just resurrecting a nameplate. They were engineering a new dynasty. And at the heart of this new era were the SS and its even more ferocious siblings. The formula was simple yet devastatingly effective. Take a stunning retro-futuristic design and pack it with the most advanced V8 power imaginable. Let's start with the Supersport, the legendary SS badge. From the get-go, it delivered. The 5th generation SS came roaring out of the gate with the LS3 and L99 V8 engines, pushing out well over 400 horsepower. This wasn't just straight-line grunt anymore. These cars were built on a sophisticated new chassis, the Zeta platform, which gave the Camaro an independent rear suspension and a level of handling finesse it had never known. Suddenly, corners were something to be attacked, not just navigated. The SS was a complete package, a daily driver that could turn into a track day hero at the drop of a hat. It sounded glorious, it looked incredible, and it reminded everyone why they fell in love with the Camaro in the first place. But Chevy was just warming up. They knew the horsepower wars were far from over. Enter the ZL1. The name itself is a nod to the mythic, all-aluminum 1969 ZL1, and the modern iteration more than lived up to the legend. This was the Camaro Unchained. The first modern ZL1, launched in 2012, was armed with a 6.2-liter supercharged AV8, unleashing a colossal 580 horsepower. This wasn't just muscle. It was supercar territory. To handle that power, Chevrolet equipped the ZL1 with its groundbreaking magnetic ride control, the same technology found in high-end Cadillacs and Corvettes. This system could adjust the suspension damping thousands of times per second, offering a ride that was shockingly comfortable on the street but razor-sharp on the track. Performance traction management, massive Brembo brakes, and carefully sculpted aerodynamics all came together to create a car that could lap Germany's Nürburgring faster than many European exotics. The Camaro was no longer just chasing Mustangs. It was hunting Porsches. Then came the sixth generation in 2016, and everything changed again. Built on the lighter, more athletic Alpha platform shared with the Cadillac ATS, the new Camaro was smaller, nimbler, and more technologically advanced than ever before. The SS model now featured the LT1 V8, a direct-injected powerhouse pumping out 455 horsepower, making it the most powerful SS in history. It was faster, handled better, and felt more connected to the driver than any of its predecessors. Car magazines and reviewers were unanimous. The new Camaro SS wasn't just a great muscle car. It was one of the best driver's cars on the market, period. Just when we thought it couldn't get any better, Chevrolet unleashed the ultimate beast, the sixth-generation ZL1. This time they didn't hold back. Under the hood sat the supercharged LT4 V8, borrowed from the Corvette Z06, producing a staggering 650 horsepower and 650 pound-feet of torque. This car was an absolute monster. Paired with a new 10-speed automatic transmission or a slick 6-speed manual, it could rocket from 0 to 60 in the low 3-second range. The aerodynamics were taken to another level, with a massive front splitter, a functional flow-tie hollow Chevy body emblem for improved engine cooling, and a huge rear wing. And for the absolute purists, the track junkies, there was the ZL11AA. This was essentially a road-legal race car. It featured Multimatic DSSV spool valve dampers, the same type of suspension used in Formula One extreme downforce generating aero and super sticky Goodyear Eagle F1 Supercar 3R tires. The 1LE package transformed the ZL1 from a track-capable street car into a street-legal track weapon that set blistering lap times at circuits around the world. It was raw, it was visceral, and it represented the absolute pinnacle of Camaro performance. From the potent SS to the track-destroying ZL11LE, the modern Camaro has proven that it is far more than a nostalgic throwback. It's a showcase of cutting-edge engineering, a testament to the relentless pursuit of performance. It offers advanced aerodynamics, chassis technology that can rival the best in the world, and of course, the glorious, earth-shaking power of an American V8. The modern Camaro lineup hasn't just kept up with the competition. It has set a new standard, evolving from a muscle car rival into a true, world-class performance car that can stand proud against any contender from any country. It's a thrilling chapter in an incredible story, and a powerful reminder that the legend is still being written. Thank you so much for joining me on this high-octane ride. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the modern era of the Camaro, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our final chapter. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which modern Camaro is your dream car? Until next time, keep the passion for performance alive. Alright, let's hit the brakes for a second and talk about something truly epic. The Camaro Z blockbuster comeback. We've journeyed through decades of this car's incredible history, but Chapter 18 is where the Camaro didn't just return to the streets. It exploded onto the big screen and into our hearts like never before. This is the story of how a classic muscle car was reimagined as a modern-day cinematic hero. For a while, the Camaro was off the production line, a legend gathering dust in the annals of automotive history. But then, in 2007, Hollywood came knocking with a script that would change everything. A little movie you might have heard of, Transformers, The producers needed a hero car, something tough, something with personality, something that could stand shoulder to shoulder with Optimus Prime. They needed Bumblebee. Now, originally, in the classic cartoon, Bumblebee was a humble Volkswagen Beetle. But for the live-action movie, director Michael Bay wanted something with more muscle, more attitude. The story goes that they saw the concept for the upcoming fifth-generation Camaro, and it was love at first sight. It was bold, aggressive, and had that unmistakable American muscle DNA. It was perfect. So the world was introduced to the new Camaro not at a car show, but in a summer blockbuster. We first see Bumblebee as a beat-up classic 1977 second-gen Camaro. It's got character, a bit of rust, but a whole lot of heart. Sam Witwicky buys it as his first car, and this is where the magic begins. That classic Camaro isn't just a car. It's a character. It plays classic songs on the radio to communicate, it's loyal, and it's a guardian in disguise. This portrayal immediately connected the Camaro's storied past with its exciting future. And then comes Asterisk, the Asterisk moment. The moment that made an entire generation of moviegoers gasp. After being insulted, Bumblebee transforms, scanning a passing brand-new gleaming yellow Camaro concept. The old beat-up car morphs into this stunning, futuristic muscle machine. The on-screen reveal of the fifth-gen Camaro was marketing genius. General Motors couldn't have dreamed of a better commercial. Suddenly, everyone, and I mean everyone wanted that car. The impact was instantaneous. The Bumblebee Camaro became a global phenomenon. Kids who had never even heard of a Camaro were now obsessed with it. Toy aisles were filled with yellow and black Camaros that transformed into alien robots. It single-handedly introduced the brand to a new, younger audience. The car wasn't just a vehicle anymore, it was a hero. It was Bumblebee, the loyal friend, the fierce protector. This association was priceless. When the fifth-generation Camaro finally hit dealerships in 2009, the demand was off the charts. Dealerships sold Bumblebee editions, complete with the iconic yellow paint and black racing stripes. It's one of the most successful examples of product placement in film history. The movie didn't just feature a car, it made the car a star. The bond between the Camaro and the Transformers franchise was so strong that Bumblebee continued to evolve with each new movie, showcasing the latest models and concept designs, from the ZL1 to the sixth-generation models. But the Camaro's pop culture tour didn't stop there. It muscled its way into another colossal franchise, Fast and Furious *. While the series had always celebrated a diverse range of cars, the Camaro brought its unique brand of American power to the party. In *2 Fast 2 Furious *, we saw a stunning 1969 Yenko Camaro SC, a classic beast that held its own against modern tuners. It was a nod to the Camaro's legendary past, reminding audiences of its raw, untamed power from the golden age of muscle cars. The Yenko's appearance was iconic. It wasn't a main character's car, but it stole every scene it was in, especially during the chaotic scramble scene where it gets launched off a pier onto a boat. It was a spectacular stunt that etched that classic blue and white Camaro into the minds of viewers. It reinforced the idea that the Camaro, whether old or new, is a car built for action and drama. Then, in later films like *Fast 5 and *Furious 7 we saw modern Camaros joining the crew's automotive arsenal, often driven by characters like Romain Pierce. They were depicted as fast, durable, and capable of pulling off the insane stunts the franchise is known for. Being part of the Fast and Furious family further cemented the Camaro status as a cool, aspirational vehicle. It was no longer just a Transformers car. It was a legitimate action movie star, versatile enough to fit into different cinematic universes. What's so brilliant about this pop culture renaissance is how it perfectly balanced nostalgia with modernity. Transformers used the classic second-gen to honor the past before introducing the world to the brand-new fifth-gen. Fast and Furious showcased the legendary 1969 Yenko, reminding us of the Camaro's heritage, while also featuring the contemporary models. This dual approach was key. It appealed to the old-school fans who grew up with classic Camaros and captivated a new generation who were seeing its modern incarnation for the first time. Beyond these two giants, the Camaro has popped up in countless other movies, TV shows, music videos, and video games. It's become a visual shorthand for American performance and style. When a character needs a car that says cool, powerful, rebellious, chances are a Camaro will be on the casting director's list. It has an undeniable screen presence. This reimagining in pop culture was more than just good marketing, it was a cultural reset for the Camaro. It took a nameplate that had been dormant and made it one of the most recognized and desired cars on the planet. It transformed the car from a piece of machinery into a symbol of heroism, friendship, and high-octane excitement. For many people, the yellow Camaro asterisk is asterisk Bumblebee. That's a connection you just can't buy. So as we close this chapter, we see a Camaro that has truly been reborn. It's not just a car that came back from a production hiatus. It's a cultural icon that returned with a leading role on the world stage, capturing the imagination of millions. It proved that with the right story, a classic hero can always make a comeback. Thanks for riding along with me for this look at the Camaro's Hollywood takeover. It's been an amazing journey. If you're enjoying this series and want to see more, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next chapter. We've got plenty more road to cover. See you in the next one. For over half a century, one rivalry has defined American muscle, a battle of titans that has echoed through generations. This isn't just about cars, it's about a legacy. This is the story of the Ford Mustang and the Chevrolet Camaro. It all started in 1964. Ford unleashed a phenomenon, a car that captured the spirit of a generation. The Mustang wasn't just metal, glass, and rubber. It was freedom on four wheels. It was an instant sensation, selling over 1 million units in its first 18 months. Ford had created a new category, the pony car. The market was theirs for the taking. But over at Chevrolet, they were watching, they were learning, and they were planning. They knew they couldn't let Ford own this space. They needed an answer, a challenger. 2 years later, the response came. In 1966, Chevrolet introduced the Camaro. The name itself hinted at its purpose, a companion, a comrade, but also a fierce competitor. When journalists asked what Camaro meant, Chevy's team famously replied, "A small vicious animal that eats Mustangs." The battle lines were drawn. The rivalry had officially begun, and the automotive world would never be the same. This wasn't just a marketing gimmick. It was the start of an all-out war for the hearts and wallets of American drivers. The late 60s and early 70s were the golden age of muscle. Both Ford and Chevy went all in, pushing the limits of performance. This was the era of the Boss 429 Mustang, a beast with a monstrous V8 engine so big, Ford had to hire a special contractor just to fit it into the chassis. On the other side, you had the Camaro Z28, a track-focused weapon designed to dominate the Trans Am racing series. It was all about big blocks, high horsepower, and pure, unadulterated speed. These weren't just cars you drove to the grocery store. They were statements. They were symbols of power and engineering prowess, battling it out on the drag strips and boulevards of America. Then the world changed. The 1973 oil crisis hit the auto industry like a shockwave. Gas prices skyrocketed, and the public's appetite for gas-guzzling V8 South evaporated almost overnight. It was a dark time for muscle cars. Both the Mustang and the Camaro had to adapt or die. Ford responded with the Mustang II, a smaller, more fuel-efficient car based on the Pinto platform. It was a controversial move, and many purists felt it was a betrayal of the Mustang's heritage. But it was a commercial success, and it kept the nameplate alive. Chevrolet's Camaro, however, held on to its traditional size and V8 power for a little longer, becoming one of the last bastions of old-school muscle in a changing world. But even the Camaro couldn't escape reality. As the 70s wore on, horsepower numbers dwindled across the board due to stricter emissions regulations. The mighty V8 South were choked, and performance became a shadow of what it once was. The rivalry cooled, but it didn't disappear. It was a period of survival, a test of resilience. Both cars were just trying to make it through to the other side. The 1980s brought a rebirth. Technology was advancing, and engineers were figuring out how to make power again, but this time more efficiently. The Fox Body Mustang, introduced in 1979, became a legend in its own right. It was lightweight, affordable, and incredibly easy to modify. The 5.0 V8 engine became an icon of the era. On the other side, the third-generation Camaro, with its sleek, futuristic design, embraced a new high-tech identity. The introduction of the IROC-Z, named after the International Race of Champions, brought a new level of handling and performance back to the Camaro name. The rivalry was heating up again, fueled by electronic fuel injection and a renewed hunger for speed. It was a new kind of war, fought with megabytes as much as horsepower. The 90s saw the rivalry evolve further. Ford shocked the world in 1994 with a complete redesign of the Mustang, bringing back classic styling cues in a modern package. The S95 Mustang was a hit, and the return of the 5.0, later replaced by the new 4.6-liter modular V8, kept the performance flame burning. Chevrolet fought back with the fourth-generation Camaro, a low-slung, aggressive-looking machine that shared its platform with the Pontiac Firebird. Its LT1 and later LS1 V8 engines delivered incredible performance for the price. The cars were faster, safer, and more sophisticated than ever. The battle continued on the track and in the showrooms, each new model year bringing fresh ammunition for fans on both sides to argue over. Then, in 2002, the unthinkable happened. After 35 years of continuous production, Chevrolet announced they were discontinuing the Camaro. It was a shock to the industry. For the first time in decades, the Mustang stood alone. An era had ended. It felt like a victory for Ford, but it was a hollow one. A rivalry needs two competitors. The Mustang continued to thrive, launching its wildly successful retro-themed fifth generation in 2005, but something was missing. The great dance partner was gone and the stage felt empty. Fans wondered if this was truly the end. But you can't keep a good rivalry down. After an 8-year hiatus, the Camaro roared back to life in 2010. Inspired by a wildly popular concept car, the new fifth-generation Camaro was a stunning, modern interpretation of the 1969 classic. Its role in the Transformers movies made it a global superstar overnight. The rivalry was back on, and it was more intense than ever before. Ford and Chevy immediately began a new arms race. Today, this legacy continues. Through oil crises, recessions, and technological revolutions, the Mustang and Camaro have endured. They are more than just cars. They are rolling symbols of American ambition, engineering, and the relentless pursuit of performance. They represent freedom, power, and the competitive spirit that has defined them for over half a century. Each generation of drivers has had their champion, their hero car to root for. It's a debate that has raged in garages, at car shows, and on internet forums for decades. Mustang or Camaro? The truth is, there's no wrong answer. The real winner has been us, the enthusiasts, who have been treated to decades of incredible machines born from this epic conflict. The legacy of this rivalry is written in tire smoke on the asphalt of American history. Thank you so much for watching this journey through one of the greatest rivalries in automotive history. Which side are you on? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next story. See you in the next one. As the sun sets on the era of internal combustion, a new dawn breaks for the American muscle car. For decades, the Chevrolet Camaro has been more than just a car. It's been a symbol of power, a soundtrack of freedom sung in the key of a V8. But the world is changing, and so is the road ahead. The whispers are growing louder, the rumors swirling like tire smoke at a drag strip. The future of the Camaro is electric. Now I know what some of you are thinking. An electric Camaro? Is that even a Camaro anymore? It's a fair question. How do you replace the visceral, chest-thumping roar of a small-block engine with the silent surge of a battery? How do you capture the soul of a legend in a new electric heart? These are the questions Chevrolet is grappling with right now as they navigate this monumental shift. Let's rewind a bit. The Camaro was born in the fire of competition, a direct answer to the Ford Mustang. It was a statement of intent, a declaration that Chevrolet was here to play, and play hard. From the classic lines of the '69 ZL1 to the modern aggression of the ZL11LE, every generation has pushed the boundaries of performance and design. It's a legacy built on raw, unapologetic power. The scent of gasoline and burnt rubber is woven into its DNA. So, when we talk about an electric Camaro, we're not just talking about changing the powertrain. We're talking about redefining a cultural icon. But think about it. What is the true essence of the Camaro? Is it just the engine noise? Or is it something more? It's about breathtaking acceleration, that feeling of being pushed back into your seat. It's about head-turning style that makes people stop and stare. It's about the spirit of American ambition, the constant drive to be faster, stronger, and better. Electric technology offers the potential to amplify these very qualities. We're talking about instant torque that could deliver acceleration unlike anything we've ever felt in a production Camaro. Imagine a 0 to 60 time that could humble supercars, delivered with the silent, relentless force of an electric motor. The performance potential is staggering. It's not about losing power. It's about reimagining it. And what about the design? Chevrolet has a blank canvas. An electric platform frees designers from the constraints of a traditional engine bay and transmission tunnel. This could lead to a Camaro with even more dramatic proportions, a lower center of gravity for incredible handling, and a futuristic aesthetic that still pays homage to its iconic heritage. Picture the sharp, aggressive lines of the classic models reinterpreted for the 21st century. It could be the most visually stunning Camaro ever created.
We've seen Chevrolet dip its toes into the electric performance waters with concepts like the ECOPO Camaro.
That was a 700 horsepower, 9-second quarter-mile electric drag car. It was a proof of concept, a signal to the world that Chevrolet understands that electric doesn't mean boring. It was them saying, "We get it. And we can do this." The challenge, of course, is to keep the soul intact. The sound is a huge part of the muscle car experience. While you can't replicate the mechanical symphony of a V8, automakers are experimenting with synthesized sounds that can create an immersive and exciting auditory experience. It won't be the same, no, but it can be something new and thrilling in its own right. It's an evolution, not an erasure. Think of it like this. Music has evolved from vinyl records to digital streaming. The format changed, but the power of a great song remains. The Camaro is a great song. The melody of performance, style, and attitude will still be there, just played on a new instrument. This transition is part of a much larger story. The entire automotive industry is at a crossroads. Regulations are tightening and consumer tastes are shifting. For a legend like the Camaro to survive and thrive for another 50 years, it has to adapt. To stand still is to be left behind. Chevrolet knows this. They understand that to preserve the legacy of the Camaro, they must be bold enough to reinvent it. The future electric Camaro won't be a quiet, compliant commuter car. That's not in its nature. It will be a performance machine, born from a legacy of tire-shredding power but retooled for a new generation. It will carry the torch of American muscle into an electric future, proving that the spirit of rebellion and the thrill of the drive don't need gasoline to burn brightly. The legend isn't ending. It's just getting a new spark. The heart of the Camaro will always echo the sound of roaring engines and American ambition, even if that roar becomes a silent electric surge. The next chapter is about to be written, and you can bet it's going to be just as exciting as the last. The road ahead is electric, and the Camaro is getting ready to own it. Thank you so much for joining me on this look into the future. It's a fascinating and exciting time for car enthusiasts. What are your thoughts on an electric Camaro? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content. We'll see you in the next one.